Well, if we ever find an evening when staff outnumbers commission, we might have concern. Ready? Good evening and welcome to this Tuesday, December 1st, 2015 meeting of the Raymore Planning and Zoning Commission. Will you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remember to speak into the mic and make sure that it's lighted. And we'll call roll. Commissioner Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner Berenson.
Present.
Commissioner Bowie. Commissioner Crane. Commissioner Pfizer.
Present.
Commissioner Meiske. Commissioner Sarsfield. Mayor Kirchhoff. And Commissioner Faulkner is present. We do have a quorum, barely. And Mr. Zur, if you would, take just a minute and remind Commission and anyone in the viewing audience when we're this close and have only a quorum, what happens on votes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm happy to do so. Jonathan Zur with the Kapkin Willerth Law Firm, representing the city this evening, and for information purposes, I would simply note we do have a quorum of commission members present. We do have 2 items on the agenda this evening that will be public hearings, and as such would require a majority of the full commission, which would mean all of you voting in favor. Applicant of it, although I believe the applicant in both cases is the city in this particular case. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Zur. And we have no personal appearances scheduled this evening. One item on the consent agenda, acceptance of minutes from our November 17th, 2015 meeting. And unless any of the commissioners have concerns about the minutes, I would entertain either a motion to accept minutes of our November 17th meeting or to accept consent agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Second.
That was a second by Commissioner Meiske. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. And I have 5 in favor. None opposed, no abstentions. And we have no items this evening under old business, so that takes us into new business. The first case this evening is a zoning change, case number 15019, reclassification of zoning for lots 4, 5, 8, and 9 in the Raymore Municipal Complex. Requested change from C2, CCO, City Center Overlay, to PR, City Center Overlay. And Mr. Catarat, if you would, city is the applicant, so I think it's probably appropriate for you to both present the case and give us the staff report, please.
Thank you. As which is Parks, Recreation, and Public Use, and maintain the City Center Overlay zoning district. All the lots, with the exception of City Hall in the municipal complex, and that'd be a total of 13 lots. So 12 of the lots have the C2 and the CCO zoning designation. Only the City Hall property has a zoning designation currently of the Parks, Recreation, and Public Use. Being a request to reclassify the zoning, it does require a public hearing that was advertised for this evening. So I do need to enter into the record the notices that were sent to all the adjoining landowners, the notice of publication that was published in the Journal, our Unified Development Code, the application, our growth management plan, and the staff report submitted to you this evening. The zoning of the lots in question, the 4 lots, was established, the general commercial zoning was established back in 2000 when the municipal complex was first proposed. And then the city center overlay district standards and designation was established in 2001. In 2009, as part of our citywide, city-initiated zoning effort, where we, the city and the planning commission, looked at changing zoning of multiple properties throughout the city, we established the new PR district in the city code, and the city hall was rezoned to that district in 2009. As with any rezoning, we hold the good neighbor meeting. So we sent the notice to any property owner within 185 feet of the boundary of any one of these 4 lots. We did have 7 individuals attend that meeting that was held back on November 18th, and 7 property owners or interested parties did attend the meeting. Staff provided an overview of the request, why we were requesting it, and the real reason stated was all of the city-owned properties currently have the PR zoning designation on them. Since we just recently purchased these 4 lots, felt it was appropriate to request that these 4 lots be the PR zoned district. We explained what that entailed as far as allowable uses. Of course, we felt that, you know, the PR was somewhat more restrictive because the host of commercial uses that were allowed there no longer allowed there. What's allowed by right are certain recreational uses. These lots aren't big enough to, you know, really provide any recreational use. What's allowed by conditional use are government buildings, civic buildings, libraries, things of that nature. So any building that the city wants to put on any one of these 4 lots does require a conditional use permit. So that was shared with the residents. The neighbors did talk about screening. They were interested in how future buildings and uses would be screened from their residential properties. They asked about parking, and they asked about the future plans for 4 and 5. What staff shared with the residents was the plans City Council currently has for Lot 8 and 9. 2 days prior to the Good Neighbor meeting, Council had a work session with the architect that was hired to do a design for a civic center building. And so we shared that conceptual site plan. So the neighbors would have some idea of the size of building we were talking about. You know, what magnitude would that building cover lots 8 and 9, just so they could have some idea of what we were talking about. They were very comfortable with that plan, but they did ask about lots 4 and 5. You know, why are we rezoning those? Well, you know, what are your plans? And at that point, again, the comment made, we want all city property to have the PR zoning. Any building that would go on lots 4 and 5 would come back through the process for a conditional use permit. We'd have another good neighbor meeting on the conditional use. And they were comfortable with that. They just, you know, wanted to be sure that screening would be in place, and they're also interested to make sure that the city center overlay standards would still apply, which are the standards that govern how the buildings look and how the buildings are placed on the lot. Those standards will still apply. So that was a gist of their comments. There were no objections raised. You know, it was just interest in the plan. And of course, the notice that went out for the Good Neighbor meeting also identified tonight as the public hearing for the property, so they were all notified to be here tonight, or the right to be here tonight. In staff comments, I did provide the use standards for the public Parks, Recreation, and Public Use District. Again, most of the uses allowed in that district are conditional uses, so very few uses allowed by right. Also identify the development standards in the PR zoning district, but we also have development standards for the overlay district that also apply. Having the overlay district in place, again, does prevent certain uses from being occupied on the properties, but those uses are really eliminated because of the change of zoning. We do also, as a property owner now in the complex, the building and the use have to comply with not only the UDC, but they have to comply with the development criteria that was done for this municipal complex. And there's also a declaration of restrictive covenants that we must apply and to any design that we have on the property. So we have to comply with those standards as well. For the proposed rezoning, we did include proposed findings of fact. And a note that staff does recommend the commission accept those findings and forward this case to the city council with the recommendation of approval. If you make a decision tonight, the city council will hold a public hearing on the request at its December 28th meeting. I have had no other contact with the property owners or the neighbors outside of the Good Neighbor meeting. There was one individual that I should indicate that lived on High Point Lane that also asked about access, wanting to make sure that access from any of these lots comes off of the municipal circle, and it does. There can be no access to directly to Johnston Parkway or High Point Lane, which is a roadway to the south. So all access will be from the municipal circle roadway. So those are the comments that we had at the Good Neighbor meeting, and the comments we've had on the application. And with that, I'll close the staff report.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Catarat. I'll open the public hearing on case 15019, reclassify zoning of municipal complex lots 4, 5, 8, and 9 from C2 with city center overlay to PR city center overlay. And if there was anyone in the public who wished to speak on the case, this would be the time to come forward to the podium. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on case 15019 and open the floor to the commission. If anyone has any questions for Mr. Catarat or other city staff members, this is a good time to ask.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Anderson.
Jim, haven't seen it. I know you said that you had shared the conceptual site plan. Do you have that? Possibly we can take a look at it, or?
Yes, sir, I do, and I just brought it up. Let me broadcast it to your screens, and I'll share with you what, so if you have the illustration now in front of you. This was one of the concepts that the design team presented to council. It was the one that reached the most interest with the council. Not to say that this certainly is going to be a final design, but what the intent with this drawing is to show the size of building that's proposed. And right now it's between 5,000 and 7,000 square foot, which is the size of the building that exists right now, right behind City Hall. The orientation of the building would have to be up against the sidewalk of the circle. The orientation, the front door has to face municipal circle. The parking lot area you see that's proposed here, typically the parking lots in the circle, the first preference is to be behind the building. The second preference is to create a parking lot that doesn't look and feel like a parking lot. And so what we and the design team came up with was stretching out the parking along Broadmoor Drive. So you don't actually pull straight from the street onto a parking space, but the parking is curvilinear with the street and doesn't really have the look and feel of a parking lot. But it opens up the back portion of the property for public use, and that was the real intent of the design. What's shown in the kind of the green color here, the behind is common area. A large common area tract that serves as detention for the municipal complex, which is right behind the lots. And then to the east along Sunset is a separately owned detention area that the city would have some intentions on making some improvements to at some point in the future. But what we, again, are trying to do is provide a building, again, probably 7,000 square foot, expandable maybe to 10 or 11,000 in the future. But again, the building is going to be about as far away from the residences as can be on these particular lots. So that's what we are trying to share with the residents, is what we were looking for as far as use.
Thank you.
Thanks. Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Anderson,
make a motion, please.
certainly.
Can make a motion to accept staff proposed findings of fact in forward case 15019, reclassification of zoning for municipal complex lots 4, 5, 8, and 9 to City Council with a recommendation of approval.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
And a second by Commissioner Pfizer. All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Pfizer, to accept staff proposed findings of fact in forward case 15019, reclassification of zoning for municipal complex lots 4, 5, 8, and 9 to City Council with a recommendation of approval. That sound about right? Yeah. Oh, and now I'll open the floor. Are there any questions or comments about the motion on the floor?
Apologies, I guess a question for Mr. Zerr. So do we need to be in the motion specific in terms of what reclassification we're suggesting here? Or would the motion be sufficient?
The motion you indicated is that it's going to be reclassified based upon the recommendations from City Council, recommendations from staff.
Right.
I don't believe you need to be any more specific than that.
As long as we've stated case 15019, that
Okay.
would seem, good question. That would seem specific enough. Okay. Other questions, comments on the motion on the floor? Otherwise, all those in favor of the motion to accept staff proposed findings of fact and forward case 15019 to City Council with a recommendation of approval, please raise a hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have 5 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. Thank you. And we didn't give you much of a break there, Mr. Carteret. Our second case this evening is case 15020, the pedestrian master plan. And this case will also require a public hearing, and the city of Raymore is the applicant on this case as well.
Yes, sir, thank you. This evening, the city staff is presenting to the Planning and Zoning Commission for final action a proposed pedestrian master plan. And this pedestrian master plan would be a component or element of our city's growth management plan. Since we are having discussions on amending the growth management plan, it does require a public hearing, and it was advertised for this evening's meeting, so I do need to enter into the record the notice of publication in the Journal, the growth management plan, the draft pedestrian master plan that was submitted to you this evening, and the staff report submitted to you this evening. This particular pedestrian master plan was prepared, again, to be a component of our growth management plan. So the layout, the appearance of it is very similar to the layout and appearance of our growth management plan, follows the same design concept. The pedestrian plan was really produced with an interest in having a document that both showed the history of a pedestrian system within the city, as well as plans for future expansion of our pedestrian system. A pedestrian plan becomes important for several reasons to the city. First off, many of our grant applications that we apply for street improvements or trail improvements do require that we have an adopted pedestrian plan. Though we've had certain aspects of a plan in place before, we never had it actually incorporated into one document. Second specific reason, the city is applying for the Walk Friendly Communities Initiative recognition, which also an element of that is an interest. I don't want to say the city has to have a pedestrian plan, but it's certainly a plus for the city to have this document. We do believe that it's something that, again, it illustrates the importance of the pedestrian system in the city, the importance of our trail network and our sidewalk system. And it helps us, again, to acknowledge the efforts that we've done and again, what we're planning on doing in the future. So staff does, recommend that the commission approve this case, the master plan as submitted, again, as with the growth management plan. You have the final authority on adoption of this plan this evening. And certainly, if there's any elements or items that you still want to have looked at or considered, we don't have to take action on this document this evening. When we had the work session, not the work session, but we had the discussion item at your last regular meeting, there were some comments made, provided to staff, so I did incorporate those comments throughout the document. And so I'll be glad to talk about any of those if you so desire, but I do believe we went through all of your comments and made the appropriate changes. So in staff's opinion, it's in final format for your consideration this evening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you again, Mr. Carteret. And I should open the public hearing. I will open the public hearing on case 15020, the pedestrian master plan. And again, if anyone were here wishing to speak, this would be the time to come forward to the podium. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on case 15020 and open the floor for the commissioners. Questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yeah, Commissioner Pfizer.
Is this the final plan, or is this like a work in progress? Or?
It actually would be the final plan. It's intended to be the final plan. It would be reviewed on an annual basis as part of our annual review of our growth management plan.
Okay,
So
so
it
it's kind
becomes-
of an evolving thing over time.
Yes, yeah, so
Okay.
we'll be updating it each year, the numbers that we have in here, et cetera, the plans as they change. So it would be on that annual cycle of updating.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner Anderson,
Chair, would like to make a motion.
please.
If there's no other questions, I'd like to make a motion to approve case 15020, pedestrian master plan as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Meisky. So we have a motion by Commissioner Anderson, second by Commissioner Meisky to, and I'm not trying to nitpick, but subtleties. I think what I heard you say, Commissioner Anderson, was to accept case 15020, and I would note with Mr. Zerr's concurrence here, or watchful eye, that in this particular case, Planning and Zoning Commission is the final accepting or approving body on this rather than going to City Council. So I don't know, Mr. Zerr, are we okay accepting case 15020, or do we actually need the motion to state that we're approving?
I would go for the approval on this one.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson?
I did not say approval.
Well,
I sure did.
approved, thank you. Okay, and Commissioner Meisky is fine with the second then, so let me restate, because I messed it up.
Submitted it and presented.
So the motion on the floor is to approve case 15020, pedestrian master plan. And is there any further discussion on that motion or case? And seeing none, all those in favor of approving case 15020, raise a hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have 5 in favor, none opposed, and no abstentions. And Mr. Carteret will go ahead and say, just so I don't have to remember it later, thank you very much for all the good work in incorporating our comments and pulling this together. It's a nice looking plan, and I hope it serves us well in the future. Let's see, Mr. Zur, it would be time for city council report if you wish.
I'm happy to provide that. It will be a very short one this evening. I had the pleasure of being able to attend the City Council meeting last Monday on November 23rd, 2015. At that time, I believe the City Council meeting lasted all of about 10 minutes. It was a very fast meeting, and during the course of it, things were approved through a consent agenda. There was nothing on the agenda items that directly impacted the Planning and Zoning Commission, with the exception that the livable streets proposal that has been suggested for approval by the city was tabled for further discussion during a work session. That's all I have.
Yeah. Thank you. And Mr. Carteret, if you would, give us the staff report. And I don't see much of a planning pipeline here, but you can tell us about that as well.
Yeah, I was looking for mine, and then I remembered that I didn't prepare and send you one, so that's why I don't have one. And the reason, there was nothing that changed from the pipeline you had received 2 weeks earlier.
Okay.
The next scheduled meeting, the Planning Commission, would be, I believe it'd be December 15th, but we don't have any cases scheduled for that. The meeting after that would be January 5th. And we haven't reached the filing deadline yet for the January 5th meeting, so unless there's a need by the commission members to meet on the 15th, that meeting can be canceled, but I would want to hold the meeting on January the 5th.
I'd say that sounds fine. Let's go ahead and we'll cancel the December 15th meeting since we don't have any cases, and we will plan to meet then on January 5th, 2016.
What I will do, thank you, sir, what I'll do is send notification to the full commission of the cancellation, so those that aren't here
Email.
would know. And I'll include we'll have the November planning pipeline, because we just finished up the month, and so I'll send that out with the notice,
Sure.
just for so you can see what else is on the schedule.
Okay, that sounds good.
Then the second item to discuss that I have is attendance by a commission member at the APA National Conference. We do want to move forward with that.
What's our deadline again for registration?
It does vary. The earlier the best.
I know.
And it hasn't even opened yet, but I believe it opens the beginning of next week. I believe sometime around February 1st is the
Okay.
initial deadline to get the lower rate.
Well, I really have no problem if one of the commissioners this evening says, yes, I want to go, sign me up, but I also note that we have 3 commissioners missing, so I have no problem, if it's okay with the deadline, I have no problem delaying a commitment until we get the rest of the commissioners back.
We have had interest expressed
Okay,
from a couple of the commissioners.
good.
Of course, that then raises the dilemma of who goes and who
Oh, of
doesn't go.
course.
So we always want somebody to go.
I think
and,
it's isn't it the vice chair's duty to down select?
Well, I put my name in, so. I
Oh,
Yeah.
oh darn.
Her name is
Okay,
in.
well, this is not going to go easily then. Okay.
She did, correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection, last year, we had more than one individual as well. I know Mr. Beisky wanted to go, and Commissioner Pfizer wanted to go.
Right.
I believe you stepped back.
Yeah, because I thought.
Well, and
longer than I
I'm always
That was my
I'm always
recollection.
leaning toward giving a new person the opportunity rather than a person who's already been, so I do have a bias there, no offense, but I think the more that can go and participate in these, the
Yeah.
better off we are.
Commissioner Pfizer did express interest.
Right.
Commissioner Sarsfield also expressed
Okay.
interest after the meeting last time as
Okay.
well.
I could make this real easy and just say, well, let's see, Commissioner Pfizer's here tonight, and Commissioner Sarsfield doesn't have a say in the matter this evening, so clearly I have a leaning there.
And again, we don't have to decide tonight.
And it's always good to have a backup. I'm much happier to have more than one individual that wants to go and can find the time than to find no one willing to take advantage of the opportunity. That would not be good.
Just to confirm, I put my name in, but took it out.
Yes.
Because of the pending municipal elections here.
Yes.
Mm.
So we had a third, but yes.
Issue
Right, yeah. Well, I think, I'm not trying to be wishy-washy. If there's a benefit to going ahead and registering now, I'd say by all means, let's send Commissioner Pfizer, unless any of the commissioners here have an objection. Otherwise, I don't suppose there's an opportunity for the city to actually afford to send 2 commissioners.
They're not
want-
currently in the budget.
I
There
don't
was-
wanna push the
Previous
limits.
years, there
Yeah.
were. For the past, I believe, 3 years, there's only been the one.
We've run rather lean, and partly because development has been rather lean.
Very true, yes.
I completely understand and
Yeah.
agree. I can go either way. Do you have a thought one way or the other? Because I know you're going.
Yeah, this year I'll be going, and I certainly always want a commissioner to go. To have the
Right.
interest was, fantastic to have 3 individuals interested in going. And again, it's an annual item, so each year we
Right.
fortunately can have an
Well,
individual
yeah,
go.
and I'm certainly, of the opinion, if we send Commissioner Pfizer this year, then Commissioner Sarsfield certainly could have first pick if he's still on commission and wants to go next year.
Sure, that's fine.
Not a bad thing. I don't know. That seem fair? Other commissioners have any comments?
Do 1 year at a time.
Yeah, take it a year at a time, agreed. Yeah, I'm pretty much willing to commit, Mr. Carteret, unless you see any reason to delay. I'd say just consensus of the commission, we'll send Vice Chair Pfizer to this year's convention along with Mr. Carteret. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to keep an eye on him, right?
Yeah, all right.
Speaking from experience, yeah, which way did that actually work, Commissioner
I
Mice?
think I saw you once.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. Usually,
Handful.
there's about 5,000 individuals at the
Well,
conference,
and
so it's a
if
pretty
you
big
would,
conference.
if you would, remind me, for some reason, I'm thinking Seattle, but that was probably a year ago.
That was a year ago with Commissioner Meisky.
Okay, so
It's
is
in
this
Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix, okay. So,
Next year is New York City, and then it goes to New Orleans, and then San Francisco.
wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, but this year,
Is
Commissioner Pfizer will
Phoenix.
be going to Phoenix.
Very
All right.
good.
Sounds good. I'm happy with that. What else do you have
That's all I
for
have.
staff report? Open the floor for public comment, and seeing none, Mr. Zer, Mr. Eanes, feel free. We're happy to have you present. I'll open the floor for commission member comment, and Commissioner Meisky, can I start with you this evening?
I have no comment. I'm just glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here too. Thank you very much, Commissioner Berenson.
No comment tonight, sir.
All right, I'm just going to keep on moving to the west. Commissioner Anderson.
I appreciate, if I didn't get a chance to wish everyone a happy holidays, at least Thanksgiving at the last meeting, but don't think we meet again until in January, so I want to wish staff and fellow board members happy holiday as well.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner Anderson. I think you have the distinction of being the first to wish me happy holidays. Vice Chair Pfizer.
I just want to remind everyone that the mayor's Christmas tree lights up this Friday night, and it's always fun to see that. And again, happy holidays to everybody else.
Thank you. I never get tired of thanking city staff. We didn't really put you to hard work this evening, but it's good to know that you're here if we need you, and we always value your advice and opinions. Mr. Catterhead, I don't know that I have anything to say either, except happy holidays. It's kind of hard to picture that our next meeting will be 2016. It really moves fast. That said, unless any of the other commissioners have comments, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Meisky, second by Commissioner Anderson to adjourn. All those in favor, raise a hand, please. And 5 in favor, none opposed, no abstentions. We are adjourned.